Hi, I'm James from J Technology, and I'm here today at CES at the AMD booth. Here with Chris Pirillo, former host of Tech TV and president of LockerGnome. Chris, today with the PC market, where do you see it going since nowadays cell phones are computers now, compared to in the past, cell phones were trying to act like computers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've been speaking to this, much to the frustration of a lot of geeks, talking about, our smartphones as pocket computers, which they are. And I talk about how the smartphone is more of a personal computer than my first personal computer, a Commodore 64 way back in the day, which, could do stuff, but you had to make it do stuff, or you had to get floppy disks, which were expensive and, impossible for the average kid to find. With the idea of a computer evolving, I think there's going to be still a need for what we have as a traditional desktop computer or traditional notebook computer, something that's powerful enough to allow us to do certain things. Yes, tablet computers definitely have their place for casual stuff, and you can even get some amount of work done, but I would be frustrated if I had nothing but a tablet computer with me, no matter what the platform was, to get the work done that I needed to get done on the road. To have something that works and functions as a laptop for tasks makes sense. Even for a desktop, certainly makes sense. Although I think the idea of a traditional desktop will morph more into what we have with laptops today. And the way we think about computers, it's just going to change naturally. We have this idea of what a computer is and what it isn't. It's going to become increasingly pervasive, where it's just going to be there. Like the internet, you used to have to dial in on a certain computer. Well, now it's just there, right? You don't even think about the internet. And computing is going to be much the same way. It's just going to be in so many places, not just in your pocket, in your glasses, and which I can't wait for. I've been dreaming of that day, like Google Glass, I'm like, that's what I want. I need that, just to be able to go, oh, there's the time. I don't have to look at a watch. I hate wearing, any kind of adornments or anything. So the traditional desktop world, I think, is just going to it's going to change. It's not going to disappear entirely, but it's still going to be there, but just in a different way. Like, imagine you've got a screen, you just plug into the wall, and suddenly you can compute, you can do stuff, or you're standing in the front of the refrigerator and you can touch it and you can do stuff. That's what I'm talking about. So the idea of having to go to one machine as your computer, I think, is just going to slowly fade away, and we're going to find different usability paradigms with natural user interfaces, gesture computing, speech recognition. I mean, true, understanding where both of us could walk into a room and the system would know you and the difference between you and me, our preferences. Hey, your wife left you a voicemail, Chris. Okay, well, the system, whatever this is, knows that. That's a computer. It's just a different type of computer than what we have today. We are so in the Stone Ages as far as computing paradigms are concerned. Yes, we have the ability to do things, but it's still a very invasive type of experience. And computing is going to evolve to be more pervasive, where you just don't have to think about it. Like the internet, it's just magically there. Computers are it's just going to be there without the idea of it just being this box. That's what it is right now. And the computer's still there, it's just not in the box anymore. We're living out of the box, or increasingly out of the box, if I can use that paradigm.
Okay. Chris, with the recent release of Windows 8, do you feel that business will have to adapt to the new OS? Or would Microsoft have to think of coming up with another operating system like their previous operating system?
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, I think it was phrased, in a good way. Should businesses adapt? I think businesses are going to change their mind and not just eschew Windows 8, what Microsoft is trying to push down the pike. I think they're going to switch altogether or stay with what they have because it's familiar. There's not enough pain in Windows 7 to make people want to leap from it. There was a lot of pain with Windows Vista to the point where some people did switch. Now, what are they going to switch to? It could be another version of Windows, or they might stick with another version of Windows, or it may be a competitive platform. something from Google. Possibly. And I don't know if I would recommend Google Chrome OS as a replacement for Windows, or possibly what Apple's got in OS 10 and their entire suite of experiences. There are, okay, so yes, Linux, Ubuntu is a possibility as well, depending on what, the needs are. More than anything, they're likely not to move at all, and that is Microsoft's biggest hurdle to overcome is apathy. Now we had, in the era of Windows 7, post Vista, we had the idea of a netbook, a low-cost computer. Well, why? And I even had this is really kind of weird. I had this conversation with my taxi driver last night. He was like, why do I need to buy a $2,000 computer? I bought one 4 years ago for $300. So consumers aren't willing to spend even $1,000 on a computer, even if it has a touch screen, which is kind of nice, on a new operating system that isn't very familiar and quite honestly is a bit of a usability nightmare. And I'm not the only person to say that, but I just think that very few people wanted Windows 8, or were expecting that kind of change from Microsoft. They're happy enough with what they have with, let's say, their iPad or, iPhone or, Android device. You have to fight not just user apathy, but then you have to fight stiff competition. So Microsoft traditionally has said, here's the operating system, here's the software, you OEMs, you hardware manufacturers, you do your best with the PC. Well, they ripped that rug out from underneath them and said, we're making our own Surface. Here, now you can buy a Microsoft PC. Oh, great. That's just great. So if I was an OEM right now, I'd be going, Microsoft, I don't know if I can count on you to get me to sell the products I need to sell. And, I think users have never been happy with the crapware that comes installed or pre-installed on traditional PCs. Some OEMs have done a fantastically better job with that, like Vizio being one of them. I can count on getting a Vizio product, PC, and not have to worry about being bogged down with constraints, like as in software that I didn't want. And so it's a more of a signature, as Microsoft calls it, a signature type of PC. And that's their series. The signature series means you don't get any junk, you just get Windows on the computer. So they've got two big hurdles. And the second hurdle, the Android hurdle, is probably more dangerous to Microsoft's business model because you don't pay for Android. Or an OEM doesn't. You do whatever you here. There you go. It's free. So I mean, there's costs associated with everything, but Microsoft's been charges licenses. Google doesn't. Not for well. They do for apps for domains or their business customers, but they got Google Docs or the Google Drive, which is free, and Google Docs is better than Microsoft Office in some ways and not as good in other ways. But is it good enough is the question. And that is where Android and the proliferation of Android and Google has really, I think, taken Microsoft for quite a spin, and that's going to be very difficult to recover from, because why is someone going to want to switch to... Even if they already use Windows, why are they going to use Windows Phone when they have Android and it works well enough? And, with the manufacturer, why are they going to go with Windows Phone when Android was free? So it's a matter of cost, it's a matter of perception, and it's a matter of marketplace proliferation. Android is pretty much like the Windows... Android is for smartphones or mobile computing what Windows is for the desktop. It rules the desktops, right? Or even laptop computers, it's Windows everywhere right now. I think that's going to slowly erode, and Microsoft is struggling for relevance and it's not finding it anywhere. The closest thing it has to relevance at this point in time is possibly the Xbox 360, good platform, solid entertainment device, and if they stick with that paradigm and push it forward with the Kinect and this idea of even what AMD is promoting, the idea of surround computing, they're right there, they're on the cusp of making that really work, but I just don't see consumers taking Windows 8, as shiny of an object as it is, brand new, and adapting it and forcing themselves to change to Microsoft's paradigm. I think users are not patient enough to put up with the shenanigans that Microsoft's been shoving down their throat. And I say that with love. I mean, I wish Microsoft did a better job, and they just didn't. I called the ball on Windows Vista. I called the ball on Windows Millennium Edition. And I called the ball on Windows 8. Everyone gets mad at me. I'm like, well, yeah, it was my fault. I made these decisions. It's my fault that no one wants to pay a ton of money for something that's unusable. It is my fault, yeah. Well, everyone took credit for Windows 7, right? And the commercial's like, I'm Chris Pirillo, and Windows 7 was my idea. Not a single person has stepped forward and took credit for Windows 8, other than Sanofsky, who's no longer at Microsoft. So, I'm just saying.
And I saw your review on the Windows 8. Very, very interesting. It was.
Okay, so it's not for me. I mean, it works, and I get it. It's kind of fun, when I'm in, the modern UI or the tiled environment. I like that. I love the touchscreen experience. Yeah. They don't call it Metro anymore. Some German company. Yeah. No, it's a long story. The tiles. That's the easiest. Or the start screen. I like that experience, but being ripped out of that on a touchscreen computer into the traditional desktop was a catastrophic mistake of monumental proportions. If I can cram more adjectives in there. It isn't necessarily for me for what I need to do every day. For some people, it might be, and that's cool. If you like it, I'm not going to take away from that experience, but I think they could have done a better job. Shame on Microsoft. They should have listened to their researchers who told them. Microsoft researchers themselves published papers, and you can probably find them on the web on the research site, where they said, don't confuse UX paradigms, and that's exactly what they did with Windows 8. So they hired the researchers to tell them what to do right, and they did everything wrong.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that today, every day with my clients who happen to purchase Windows 8, and they're like, well, how do you get to this or that, or where's the control panel?
It's even worse when OEMs layer on top of what Microsoft has already made a mess, and they make it more of a mess. So I actually I'm not going to name any names right now, but played around with an OEM, a new Ultrabook PC and everything, touchscreen, a convertible, all that stuff. The software was confusing to begin with, but then they layered on top of it their own software. So this system came with 3 app stores. Yeah, that's not confusing at all. Not in the slightest. 3 app stores. One in one experience, or 2 in one experience, and 1 in another experience. It was just so... I'm like, dude, I understand it, and I'm confused. The game needs to change, and unfortunately, Microsoft is... It's got quite a hurdle ahead of them. User apathy and marketplace realities that they refuse to see. They understand apathy, but they refuse to see anything else as a competition, and that's going to be their downfall.
So what are your feelings regarding the more frequent releases of Apple products? Do you think it dilutes the vision what Steve Jobs had?
No, I say the more the better. I mean, I love frequent releases. Just because you just bought it doesn't mean that they need to hold it back for another year or two just because you bought it. I mean, technology doesn't stop, at the latest product release. You always have to iterate. You always have to move the ball forward. And because Apple faces increasing amounts of competition in the marketplace, they have to push out more frequently. And that may disappoint some people, but unfortunately, Apple has a lot of customers to satisfy. And I think having a more frequent release cycle, it may be frustrating for some who feel entitled to having the latest product for a year or two. What's Apple going to do? Hold it back for a year because some people bought it and other people didn't? I mean, 6 months, a year, 2 years. What's too infrequent? What's too frequent? I think every month would be a little too much. I think 6 months is a pretty good cycle.
Because I think right now, is it the iPad Mini? Second release is going to be coming out?
Likely. Well, it's a rumor. We don't really know. But, I mean, they likely will iterate with the iPad. I don't know how successful the Mini has been over the other iPad. I haven't had a problem with mine. Would I upgrade to the latest one? Sure, but I usually do, and then it gets passed along to somebody else or whatever. So.
Just had a question about Nomies. Can you explain more about that with businesses?
Sure. I have people asking me questions every day. Consistently, every hour, every minute. Seriously, I have a flooded inbox. I love doing trade shows, but it gets difficult to keep up with all the emails. And these questions, they range from common consumer questions like, what computer should I buy? Here's my scenario. Because you can't just say, here's the blanket answer. Everyone has a different response depending on their scenario, what they have, their needs, their budgets. But then I have deeper questions from people who are asking, hey, how do I do this with my business? And that's a money question. To me, it's like if you're going to be taking advice from me on how to grow your business to make money, well, then you're putting value on the way that my advice has played into you coming to me to ask me for advice. Not everything is free. So what I did was I looked at my hourly rate, I cut it in half, and then I said, that price for a year. You can ask me questions in this Facebook group, and yay, you win. So I had people pay me, on an annual basis, $97, and hundreds of people to get my advice. And I also do one-on-one sessions as well. But this allowed me to address those questions to an audience of business owners or small business owners who wanted to know that advice from me and were willing to say, Chris, this advice is worth at least $100 for an hour, let alone $100 for an entire year. And so it puts it in dramatic perspective. And then this year I hope to do like phone calls where I'm able to do this phone call with the group, answering their questions all together. And then also invite people who aren't a part of the group for maybe $10 per session. That if they didn't want to spend $100 a year, maybe just $10 to listen in or to ask a question that they otherwise couldn't get answered, that I wouldn't answer. I mean, no one can tell me what to do. And there are a lot of people out there who believe that everything should be free. I'm like, well, information is free, but knowledge is expensive. That intelligence behind the information is what I try to separate in that realm of Gnomies, the more intelligent. Not to say that my other answers aren't intelligent, just that knowing that the information that I'm giving them is going to benefit them financially. I just want a small, here, it's like a tip.
So if you had some people interested in Gnomies, what is the website? And
Gnomies.com.
Okay.
You can just probably Google it and find it. I don't know.
And then how about with LockerGnome? How is that going with with you?
It's been a constant evolution, and I'm on the cusp of not pivoting really. Well, I guess kind of. So answering questions, I get a lot of them. A lot of them can be answered in an article form and then addressed in the YouTube channel. So basically that's what LockerGnome.com is going to be primarily. People who want to ask me questions with, they've got a detailed question. I can respond to it at length in an article that then benefits the rest of the community. So it's kind of like it'll be like a personal Q&A portal, because that's the one thing that I have that nobody else has is me. And so LockerGnome is going to be a place to get your tech questions answered by me. Can't answer every one of them, of course, but that's why we have the community on LockerGnome.net with over 100,000 answers and responses to questions being asked there every day. So.
And last question, the latest thing you have going on is the vlogging. And I've been keeping up with your vlogs and your YouTube channel, and you mentioned about starting up your own convention or some.
No, not a convention necessarily, not like a CES, a trade show or anything, but more like a festival or a fair. So Vlogger Fair is the name we're going with. Even though people call it Vlogfest, Vlog Fair, no. I tried to register every domain I possibly could just to get it all redirected, but it's a relatively new idea. I believe we're going to be working with some pretty big partners in this endeavor, but it's going to be a fair for vlogging and people who like following vlogs, making vlogs, supporting vlogs, and the idea of it being the future of entertainment. It's reality show, it's online. It's not like, it wouldn't be like this type of, I wouldn't consider this a vlog. It's an interview, it's, informational. A vlog would be more like, what did you have for dinner today? Like, where are you going? What was interesting in your life today? And that live streaming type of aspect of it is really, that's the audience that I'm trying to finely tune for that. Because we've had a pretty good success, I think, with our own behind the scenes live stuff. And so I was like, I think there's an event to this. I think they're getting everybody together would be kind of fun.
And final question. Somebody who wants to start vlogging, what type of advice can you give our viewers there?
I know this doesn't sound very technical, but just pick up a camera and do it. Doesn't matter what camera you have, just do it. You'll figure it out. You'll look, 100 vlogs down the road, because it's dedication. You'll look back to your first vlog saying, oh my God, it was horrible. But 200 vlogs down the road, you look back to the 100th vlog saying, God, that was horrible. So you just got to start. That's really the bottom line, and there's no formula to it. You just got to start. Everyone's got a different approach. I have a way that I want to do it. Everyone's got a different way that they want to do it. And that's cool, because it's yours, it's personal. And you're going to find that it should resonate with an audience, whether it's an audience of 10, 10,000, 10 million.
Just want to say thanks, Chris, for taking time out and taking time for this interview. I'm James from J Technology. Thanks for watching.